Hello and welcome to another video. I'm in the woods looking at mushrooms, and today I'm going to be talking about gills specifically. And we all know what gills are. Gills are spore releasing surfaces that mushrooms use to release sexual spores for reproduction. But they can often be a point of confusion, especially when learning plant ID and foraging. So in this video I'm going to not worry about mushroom species. I'm just going to pick a couple of random mushrooms and explain their gill attachments and how you can tell the difference between different types of gills. So one really common gill placement or attachment that you'll find is free gills, and free basically means that the gills are completely free from the stem. They don't touch it in any way. So you can see this mushroom here, we're not worried about the species of the mushroom, we're just looking at the gills, and you can see they do not actually attach to the stem. You can often tell if the gills are free without having to break the mushroom open. If you just have a look really closely, you can see there's a big gap between where the stem finishes and where the gills start. Some of you may already know this is an ochre brittle gill. This is edible, and it gets its characteristic name from the fact that its gills are brittle and they flake like almonds when you touch them. It can be quite difficult to tell the gill attachment for mushrooms in the russula or brittle gill family, just because quite often you find them and they're usually damaged. If we take a very careful slice, you can see, especially on this side here, that the gills do actually attach to the stem. They narrowly attach to the stem right at the top. So that means that these gills are annexed. So you can see they kind of do a little bit of a swoop, but then they come back and they attach to the stem. So this is an annexed gill attachment. There's another mushroom down here. Let's have a little look at this guy. With this mushroom, there's not really a clear indication of where the stem ends and the gills begin. And you can see the gills, they seem to be running a little bit down the stem in some places and tucked underneath it in others. And any mushroom that has gills that appear to be actually running down the stem would be classed as having decurrent gills. So if you look very closely, you can see it's quite random, but they do seem to be running slightly down the stem. So if we slice this mushroom open, you can see the gills on the left hand side, and they do appear to ever so slightly run down the stem, not by much. So even though you may be following a foraging guide that says this particular species has this particular gill arrangement or placement, just be mindful of the fact that what you see might actually not be what you're expecting to see. There are other really good examples of mushrooms with decurrent gills. The chanterelle is another mushroom that looks like it has decurrent gills, and also the funnel caps can often appear to have decurrent gills. Here we have a much more obvious example of a mushroom with decurrent gills. This is a funnel cap. I believe this is a tawny funnel. And you can see that the gills actually run partly down the stem. We open this one up. You can see, especially on this side here, those gills running down the stem. Very good example of decurrent gills. So this purple member of the russula genus, or the brittle gills, is in very good condition, and you can see that the gills are attached to the stem. This mushroom has an adnate gill attachment, just simply meaning that the gills are very broadly attached to the stem. You can see it's almost a straight line, especially on the left hand side. This is a very common gill attachment for a lot of different species of mushroom. We have a member of the Lactaris genus here. I know that because the gills are lactating or producing a milk or latex. And I don't actually need to cut this one in half in order to see that the gills are broadly attached to the stem. So this has adnate gills. Mushroom gills are very, very complex, and they can be categorized not just by their attachment to the stem, but by whether or not they bruise, change color, whether or not they lactate or produce a milk or secrete a substance, and also whether or not they're brittle or flexible, and how they are spaced underneath the cap of the mushroom. There are plenty more different gill attachments than what I've mentioned in this video, so make sure that you do plenty of research before you go out. And don't forget that the way that gills are attached to a stem can change with time, age, temperature, humidity, lots of different factors. Take your time, be patient, and I'm sure that you'll get it. So thanks for watching. I hope that this was helpful, and yeah, get out there, get your hands in the dirt and find some mushrooms.